Hello, very beautiful community. I want to say something important about Trump's retreat on Greenland. Now, you've heard all of the standard and entirely appropriate analysis elsewhere, I'm sure. That it's important for the Europeans to stand up to Trump. That it's important for the Europeans to stand up to Trump collectively. That it's important for the Europeans to understand that embarrassing yourself in front of Trump in a conciliatory way makes you categorized in his eyes as a nobody with whom he doesn't need to reckon. Standing up to Trump without personally insulting him, on the other hand, actually makes him reckon with you and actually makes him consider making concessions. So all of that is absolutely right, but there is a bigger psychological lesson that we're still not learning because we can't deal with the fact that we are going through an historical moment whereby the past has collapsed, but there is no semblance of a coherent future emerging, and in fact quite a lot of evidence that no coherent future will emerge at all. And the psychological risk of this is that you see Trump as so overwhelming, such an appalling orange monstrosity that is politically accelerating the dismantlement of the West, that you feel he's got to be a kind of a once-in-a-century wrecking phenomena that you've just got to survive. And so what happens is that you get into a kind of a dynamic where it's Tuesday, and on the foreign policy stage, you just need to survive Trump till Wednesday. And on Wednesday, you need to survive him till Thursday. And so it goes until the end of his term if he leaves power. Now, what's wrong with this is that it completely misses the historical moment because the historical moment is so difficult to process for all of us. But especially difficult to process, funnily enough, for besieged and increasingly impotent centrist political leaders who are facing legitimacy crises in their domestic politics and aren't just scared to act, but they're also scared to see, scared to look clearly. And once you do look at our historical moment, and you understand not just intellectually but physically and psychologically that Trump is not an aberration, what you see is that the 2030s equivalent of Trump would not be backing down on Greenland, but would try to take Greenland militarily. You'd see that Trump is erratic, but is actually a lot more vulnerable, a lot more contained by still existing counter-majoritarian checks and balances, and a lot more sort of pathetically unstrategic. Then we realize when we conceive of him as this larger-than-life gorilla that is sort of haunting our political environment in an unprecedented way. So you've got to understand that rather than being in the space of short-term overwhelm about Trump and trying to survive him day to day, you've actually got to see Trump as a warm-up act on whom you practice for the worse authoritarians to come in the 2030s. So Trump is not the ultimate challenge that we just need to sort of get through and survive. Trump's a kind of training camp. He's not a perfect training camp because the profile of the more dangerous authoritarians to come is going to be different to Trump. They're going to be more strategic. They're still going to be deceptive, they're still going to be post-truth, they're still going to be disruptive, but they're going to be less about overwhelming you with, a sort of a barrage of ill-assorted entertainment type messages that sort of make you give up on politics. they're going to be making clearer proposals. They're going to be taking clearer steps to follow through on these proposals. So there are some differences, but still, in fact, in good part because of these differences, it's important that we use Trump as practice about how constitutional politicians, constitutional governments respond to revolutionary, anti-constitutional, anti-democratic political forces. So Trump has got to be a kind of punching bag on which we work out what we're going to do later, on which we practice. That's a very important psychological shift that our constitutional elites need to make. Rather than seeing Trump as an ultimate threat and something that's just a matter of surviving for you, you've got to see Trump as an actor on whom we can practice for the bigger challenges to come. And yes, we can deal with the bigger challenges to come. We've got a good chance of dealing with them. But we're not going to deal with them anywhere near as well as we can if Trump himself is sufficient to send us running, hiding, to send us into a state of passive paralysis. So I'm going to be doing a lot to usher sort of all of us into this second psychological space. Because quite frankly, as understandable as the utter overwhelm about Trump is, funnily enough, putting Trump in the right historical context can actually encourage us and inspire us to think more calmly and therefore perhaps act more efficaciously in the face of the challenges he presents, knowing that we need to use this opportunity to practice for the bigger challenges to come. I'm going to be pressing this psychological shift on us in quite a few future videos. Thank you for bearing dose 1 of it. Bye for now.